Yeah, good morning, good noon to all of you. On behalf of the Teaching Learning Center at SASTRA, I welcome all of you to this talk by Professor Annoesjka Cabo from TU Delft on a very interesting topic on enhancing excellence in engineering education, the TU Delft model. Let me give a short introduction about Dr. Annoesjka. Professor Dr. Annoesjka Cabo is Professor of Statistics for Innovation in Education at TU Delft in the Netherlands. Her research investigates the effect of innovation of mathematics education on student learning. She is the academic director of the TU Delft Teaching Academy, the Center for Teaching Learning. She also acts as the director, which is Vice Dean of Education at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, Mathematics and Computer Science. Professor Dr. Annoesjka is a member of the Board of Directors of European Society of Engineering Education, SEFI. In today's talk, we'll come to know from Dr. Annoesjka how are they building in TU Delft a scholarly community which is going to impact on engineering education and what going to be an engineering education for this forthcoming generation, which is like kind of impacted also by AI. Thank you, Professor Dr. Annoesjka, for accepting our invitation and taking your time to speak to us. On behalf of Shastra, I welcome all the other participants, attendees from other institutes who have joined this online talk. Thank you, Dr. Annoesjka. Now over to you.
Thank you, Professor Narend, for your introduction, and also very much I'm honored to be here, and I'm very honored to have had the invitation to talk to you all. I don't see you, so I hope you can hear me. If there's anything unclear, yes? If there's anything unclear, just shout or maybe send a message in the chat so that our hosts can then maybe say something to me about it. So yes, so it's a pleasure to introduce a model, I would call it, but that seems like something that is ready. But I'm actually here to present something that we are working on, and I'm also very curious to hear your feedback on this model and maybe your ideas on how this might work in your context, or what ideas you have maybe for us to improve or to enhance the impact of this. So first I will give you an overview of my talk. So I'm going to introduce myself a bit, which is already done by our host, and also talk a little bit about the university I'm working in, the Technical University of Delft. And then I will go to the TU Delft Center for Teaching and Learning, which we call our Teaching Academy. And then I will go to the program which is called IDE. That's a Dutch abbreviation, and it means the same as the English word ID, but the abbreviation is Innovation in Delft Engineering Education. But we will come to that later. So, well, just you have heard the roles I have, but maybe it's more interesting for you to see what kind of journey took me here. So I will talk a little bit about my background, just to give you an idea of what the person who is talking to you, but only partly, of course, not everything will be shared. So I started here on the top, you see, as a lecturer in mathematics at our Delft Institute of Applied Mathematics in the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, Mathematics and Computer Science. And I'm a mathematician by training, so I studied not at an engineering university, but at the University of Amsterdam. And but I did write my PhD thesis and did my research here at the Technical University of Delft, University of Technology. But it was on the subject which is called stochastic geometry, and it had application in image analysis. So not really into teaching or research in engineering education at all, to be honest. And then after my PhD, I went into a different direction. So I worked for about 18 years as a professional musician, because I also am a violinist by training. And I decided to pursue a musical career after my PhD in mathematics. But then at a certain point, a colleague from Delft said, we have now a vacancy for a lecturer in mathematics with your specialization, statistics and probability theory. Would you not consider coming back? And I considered that and I got the job. So that's how I started in Delft again, which was really a very nice journey because there was a lot of innovation going on. We have this fact that, of course, in Delft, we only have engineering studies. All the engineering students, of course, have to learn mathematics from the first day that they enter the university. And it's all taught by mathematicians from our mathematics department. And it's, of course, a challenge to motivate people, or at least in the Netherlands, it's a challenge to motivate the students when they decided to do electrical engineering or civil engineering to also spend a considerable amount of their time doing mathematics because they thought they would build a bridge and they don't need mathematics for it, of course, which is completely not true. But so we had a challenge with that, and we started a program of innovation in mathematics education, and I did a lot of work in first in practice, as is said here in the red circle, to develop materials, to make it a blended course, and to involve a lot of lecturers and students in developing all this material. Then later on, I became responsible for the whole program and also responsible for the whole mathematics education that we deliver to the university. So that is the gray part, which is now a bit longer ago. And then apart from becoming the what we call director of education or the vice dean of education of our faculty of EEMCS, I also became the academic director of the teaching academy. And I will go a little bit in the history of the academy later on. And then I had been developing this innovation and innovation in Prime. But we were already thinking, okay, what are the effects of this innovation? Do we actually achieve what we want to achieve? How can we measure this? We didn't have much experience with that, but slowly some research into this innovation started in my own group. And that's how then I got a position as professor in statistics for innovation in education, because of course also the statistical methods you need to actually do this research are interesting to investigate. And the third part of the things that I'm really involved with is professional development of our staff in terms of education. So the education is in the center of the whole my journey. And now as a member of the board of directors of the European Association for Engineering Education and Engineering, we're also very much involved with questions of, so what do our engineers need to be successful in the future and to help us solve the challenges that we have in society, of course. All right. So then the institute where I'm working, so this big blue building is where the biggest part of our faculty is. We do have another building, but this is our campus in Delft. So for my left-hand side, close to the blue bar, you also see a bit of the concrete building where the civil engineering faculty is hosted. So I think so I have some figures about our university. So we have about 7,500 people working, about 26,000 students, and also many PhD candidates, as you see here at the left bottom. And it's a research-intensive university, so a lot of research is done in all the engineering domains, but no social sciences or history or law we have at our university, which is relevant for the rest of the talk. And here are our 8 faculties. So we have 16 bachelor and 33 master programs, and of course also some postgraduate programs. And the reason I have these 8 faculties here, so we have civil engineering and geosciences, applied sciences, industrial design engineering, this is the design parts, the mechanical engineering, architecture and the built environment, aerospace, my own faculty, and technology, policy and management. And these we call faculties, maybe you call schools, I'm not sure. And of course, in all these faculties, teaching is been done, and of course also tailor-made for the specific programs. Still having all the basic mathematics program taught by us, but we also tailor that mathematics courses to the examples, or we try at least to make the students also see where they can actually use the mathematics that they are learning. But also, of course, other courses are taught, and all these faculty members that are teaching different courses and thinking of new things to enhance the learning of the students is done in sort of isolation. So I just talked before we started this session with our host, and he mentioned something completely similar in your institution and in your country. So people are making wonderful ideas and applying things in their education, but it's when they leave, for instance, nobody hardly knows about it, or while they are doing it, they cannot share it with people from another faculty who are maybe doing the same thing or struggling with similar challenges. So that's where our teaching academy comes in. And before we had an academy, or really a center, the executive board started a program called Education in the Spotlight, and it was like these kind of meetings that we are having here now, once every 2 months maybe, a talk in one of these faculties that you see here on the screen, one of a building. So already people from different faculties came to one place and to meet. They met people that they didn't usually meet. And it was quite a success. People were interested in this innovation and liked to talk about education, because I don't know if it's the same in your country, but if you're working at a university, usually the division of tasks is like 40% for research, 40% for education, and then 20% for organization. On average, of course, it can vary a bit. So it's quite a big part that people spend or have to spend on education. And it's, of course, also very rewarding in the sense that many students attend these courses. So this Education in the Spotlight program needed a bit more substantial way of working. And that's where the Teaching Academy came in. So nowadays, all these initiatives are called Centers for Teaching and Learning. Also in our country, in the Netherlands, there's now a national program about Centers for Teaching and Learning, and they're also meeting together to see and to learn from each other, also to think of common themes, for instance, about learning analytics and artificial intelligence, which we'll also come to a bit later. So but our Teaching Academy program was started about, I think, maybe now 7 years ago. So after this Education in the Spotlight initiative, which was more like a bottom-up thing, the program started with a mission and so on. So that we will have a look at. So first I will show, it's a bit complicated, don't look at it. But maybe, so the executive board is my boss, I would say, being the academic director, as we call it, of the Teaching Academy. And the Teaching Academy is the part where the community of all people involved with teaching, so the lecturers, the scientific staff, meet and can go to follow a program of sharing experiences in teaching, and also now, as we will see later, researching education. And there's a physical space for that called the Teaching Lab, which is a building which has the same yellow colors as you see here in the background, as many European Centers for Teaching and Learning seem to be in yellow, but maybe we were one of the first ones to have this color. At least some Scandinavian countries came to us to visit and then also found that paint, apparently. And you see 3 other small boxes there on the lower part of this organization diagram, because we also have a separate unit in the university that is called the Teaching and Learning Services, where all the professional workshops around teaching are given and facilitated. So they are not in the teaching academy, but they are separate units of support staff, usually educational advisors, e-learning developers, blended learning experts, helping the teachers to, when they have specific questions about how to shape their education. And they also provided training. So I don't know how this is in India, but in the Netherlands, there's a national agreement that everyone who's teaching at a university should get a university teaching qualification. So that's a course that consists of 4 modules about supervising students, developing courses, assessments. And that's something that they really have to achieve before they can become an examiner for a specific course, for instance. So that's all concentrated in the teaching and learning services. And we have now, after this university teaching qualification, we also now started with a senior university teaching qualification, which is where there is a small start in the scholarly way of teaching and learning. So where the faculty members who are interested in that and who are elected to then go to this course actually start to do a little bit of research on their teaching. And then we also have a third part that is in our virtual Center for Teaching and Learning, which is called the New Media Center, where the videos are recorded, where the library is attached to. So these 3 parts, the Teaching Academy, Teaching and Learning Service, and the New Media Center together form our Teaching and Learning Center. And the Teaching Academy, which I'm going to talk mostly about, is the community where all the lecturers meet and where all the activities are organized, such as the ones we are now in, but then in our own university. Okay, so what we are, so here you see it's a network. So it's also very important to create that community and to make people meet each other and learn from each other. This is all supported by a team of dedicated members of, I think there are now about 10, who are all responsible for a certain part of the program. Then there's the program that I will go into a bit later. And there's the physical space, which we call the teaching lab, where the meetings are actually taking place and where also people can just meet and discuss. Okay, so now why did we do that? Well, of course, as all university, we have a great responsibility in educating the future engineers. And the education is provided by educators, but these are, of course, researchers in principle, right? So not really people trained to do education. You did have education yourself, but it's not the same thing as teaching students from different generations with different backgrounds, maybe different motivation as well. So there's a need to bring together all these people. And we also, of course, have the balance that all people have to work in education research and the valorization or organization. So now what's our mission? We want to give exposure to the people and to the products, so the education they provide. We want to connect people together. There's a space to innovate and to discuss these innovations and to learn from each other. This is, and then all inspired by the slogan, Bright Alone, Brilliant Together. So meeting people and putting people together is very important. Since I don't see anything else than my own slides, is there anything already, question or remark that I should pay attention to?
Not at this time.
Nothing as of
I think
now.
you can carry on.
Okay.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And we just developed a new plan for the coming 5 years. And this is about the visibility and the recognition of the educators themselves. So our staff that is teaching, because there's a lot, of course, going on about workload, many students coming in. We don't have the possibility, or at least in most of our programs, we cannot select, or we do not select our students. So when they have the required background, in principle, people are allowed to enter our programs, at least for the undergraduate level, so for the Bachelor of Science. There's an exception for the aerospace engineering and computer science programs. So there's a strong selection, but I mean, it's a lot of students entering our university, and the amount of staff not growing at the same rate as the number of students entering. So there's some tension there. So it's important to enhance this visibility, of course, fostering the education community and advancing the education innovation. These are the ambitions. Now, what kind of activities do we then organize? So one of them is to the left is the program ID that I will talk about later. But for instance, there's also a program called Kickstart Your Teaching. So this is everyone who is new at the university gets an invitation to join this meeting. It is a one-day meeting with all people from different faculties. So already starting to build a community. There is some pep talks, we call it, by experienced teachers, trying to convey, first of all, of course, their enthusiasm for teaching, but also to get the people a bit known with the culture at our university, what we expect from the students, what we expect from the lecturers, how an inclusive learning environment is created, and so on. So to start the conversation about what we think good quality education look like. And then they also have a workshop later in the afternoon to start practicing a little bit about teaching. And then there are many events like lunch lectures and sharing sessions and separate communities where people build communities on specific topics that sometimes come bottom up and sometimes more in a general direction, or questions from the executive board. Something important comes up, people gather and start sharing their examples. And then we also have a program of grants and awards. I will show you some examples of this. So in the Kickstart Your Teaching, we also have a podcast that you can openly access if you are interested. So our conversations with teachers, but also with students about how they experience our education. Then we have also something we called Thunder, which is a program where we connect teachers from different faculties so that they can go to each other lectures, observe, and have a discussion afterwards what they learned from each other. So we bring these people together and we facilitate that. Then, for instance, we have an education day. That's a big meeting every year. I mean, it started relatively small with, say, 80 participants. Last year we had more than 200. We select a theme. Last year it was Crossroads because we were at a point where we really had to think, because we had we experienced some budget cuts at the university, also because of political reasons, which has now changed again a bit. But then we really had more. You could not just do everything we wanted. So how are we going to support each other? What can we learn from each other when we have to think a bit? So that's a nice opportunity where people meet and where workshops are given by the teachers. And we also there have the grants and award ceremonies for the lecturers. Then there's this meetings like this one, lunch lectures we have usually. So not for me, it's in the morning, for you it's in the afternoon. So for us, it's usually during lunchtime, and we also have a small lunch there. That's why it's called Meet and Eat. And we have grants. So we have one prize at the university, which is called Professor Excellence. That's for not only for teaching, but that is people who really made an impact as researcher, supervisor, and lecturer. And then there's also some national grants that we support people in applying. So last year, one of our colleagues got this grant. It's a big grant of 800,000 euros, I think. We also have an education fellowship. So 4 grants per year that are applied by individual teachers. Usually we get about, each faculty is allowed to nominate 2 candidates. So we could have 16 applications and only 4 are granted. They can, during 2 years, they can work on an innovation on their course. But the goal is to actually then also share the results with the rest of the community and make it applicable also for other courses and programs. And then, of course, we also have the Educator of the Year of our university, which is selected from the 8 educators of the faculties that are selected by the students. The Educator of the Year is selected by a committee supported by the Teaching Academy. And there's also a national election for the Educator of the Year. And last year, our Educator of the Year also became the Educator of the Year of the Netherlands. So that was something to be proud of. And we make that all very visible. So that's one of the things we make visible on the site and also in the events. Then we also have SPICE, which is the student as partners in co-creating education. So there's 12 students who are working on their own projects in education. For instance, they did a study on how students actually use AI nowadays and what that means for them and what they are looking for in terms of the teaching. And also they did now just stopped or they just delivered a product on attendance. So why do students come to class and why don't they? Because that is something we struggle with, but apparently the students also saw as something important. But as a lecturer, you could also go to the students. If you want a student's perspective on education, you can go to them. And we also organize sessions with the program director of all our programs to have a conversation with the executive board member with education in the portfolio and me, and see on certain subjects, again, to share the views and the perspectives of the different programs that we have. And then you can go to the teaching lab actually and get support and have some physical things like a small video recording box where you can record your own videos if you don't want to go to the big studio and if you want to record a podcast. So that's something that people can actually go to and use. Now, all this is very nice and was also, it's a growing community and people are appreciating the fact that there is a place to go to and talk about education. And also, it's also research, of course, that when you talk about education, as we are also doing now, but in an institution, talk about education in a structured way, and even talk about education in a scholarly way, then the education will also improve. But we thought we needed a bit more in the sense that our strategic plan of the university says that we are educating the engineers of the future. I guess you are also doing that, but you are also delivering this education in an evidence-informed way. And I asked, okay, but how do we do that? Where do we get the evidence from? Because since we're nearly all engineers, we are of course not used to engage with engineering education or even educational science literature. So people do things, people investigate the effects of what they're doing, but it's not always on a scholarly way. And we thought it might be good to start doing something like that in the context of the Teaching Academy, because there we already have a community that is really interested in. So finally, after I think a few years, or at least 1.5 years of having discussions with all kind of stakeholders throughout the university, the executive board awarded us with a a large grant to start this initiative. I will come now. I will explain a bit why. So I already explained a bit. So it is called Initiative on Innovation in Delft Engineering Education because to start with, to get the people on board really researching the effects of their innovation in education, it seemed to be important from the engineer's point of view that it was really developed at our university to make the connection between the results that you get and the implications that that would have, and maybe also the interventions that you could take from these results to make it easier implemented and adapted by the people who are actually going to use it. So that's where the Delft is in it, but it hopefully will not stay only in Delft. So there's also a component of reaching out to other institutions to share, of course, the lessons learned. And so, but the primary goal was to combine innovation and research for a lasting impact on our engineering education. Because I really like this image that I got from a colleague from a nice company that's developing open material for mathematics exercises. You can have a look at it, Quaspel. And they also said, what happens in research when we all do research? We build upon each other's knowledge and results, right? And so it develops in a certain way. With education innovation, you have these separate parts. Someone develops something very nice, but then if that person stops working at the university or leaves, the knowledge is gone as well. So we also try to get something more building upon each other and lasting as we do in research, so that we all know. And the need that our university really felt was that the practice that we're doing needs to be informed by research, and the other way around. Could we research what we are really doing in order to make it meaningful for our? So the culture of evidence-informed innovation in education, the structured way of driving innovation in education to improve the education, of course. And then, of course, preservation and sharing the knowledge. And not only innovating and researching, but also implementation, which means that if research shows that maybe certain practices do not have the results that we are looking for, or that do not have the impact on the learning of the students that we are wishing, then maybe we should also stop doing it and implement the things that come out of this research. So, and that is a way of, well, it's a new way of thinking at our university, I would say. So that's what we started to do. What is the idea? So we combine innovation and research for lasting impact by uniting scientific staff from the engineering schools, hire PhD candidates for specific themes that we will talk about later, and postdoc researchers. These two researchers have then more educational science background, so they can inform our engineering staff who can inform them with the way or the courses that they teach and the material. And we also add a learning developer to the team. And yeah, the collaboration across faculty of boundaries is, of course, very important. It's also a place where researchers with an interest in education and innovation have an environment to develop this talent and interest. And the teams that we build, which I will show you a bit later on, will design, investigate, and implement this innovation, as I said. So from the design, from the beginning, we decided that there are going to be 5 teams working on different educational themes. So now the question is, of course, how did we find these themes? And so the deliverables are going to be a scientific basis, a platform to share this knowledge with the University of Delft, but also outside our own university, implementation of the innovation, exposure of campus-wide innovation in education, and showcasing trajectories towards scientific careers with a focus on education. Now, this is a national thing also in the Netherlands and also worldwide. I know because there's the Advancing Teaching Culture Network by Ruth Graham. You probably know about that, where scientific careers can be shaped with a focus on education. So they're doing research, but the focus is on education, and they have to show, document their progress in that field. And this is where the recognition and reward parts of ED is coming, because it gives people the opportunity to show and to document their achievements in that field. All right, I see that I have 10 minutes left maybe, but we also need some discussion. So the organization of the idea is that we also have to now, of course, safeguard the quality. So there's a board installed. Maybe we shall see later who are in there. We have engineering education scientific expert hired, which is a colleague from the KTH, and she's now working at our university for 1 day a week specific for this program. And then there are all kinds of sessions organized and project managers from our team to really help advance the themes in their development of the goals and the work packages that they wrote. Now, I'm going to go a bit fast through this. So how can you start something like this? So first of all, of course, you have to find out what are the themes that we are going to address. So we asked all kinds of stakeholders, from students to the executive board and everyone in between, what is something in our education that you think we are trying hard for the past 20 years but didn't really achieve yet? So there we selected 5 themes. You would think maybe that is a hard exercise, but it was quite easy to get to those. We will see later what they are. Then we asked and did an open call, who would be interested to investigate or be part of one of these themes and help us as a university to achieve the goals that we have with those. And again, there I was a bit afraid that maybe 1 or 2 people would be willing to devote some of their research time to this kind of research and innovation. But for the first 3 teams we started with, 60 people were enthusiastic. And since we did not announce that it was going to be some competition, we had to find a way of giving all these people an opportunity or finding themselves a way to collaborate in teams. So this was this is our teaching lab, by the way. You see a little bit of the building inside, welcoming the people. And then maybe shortly I can show the themes. Yes, here they are. So there are 5 themes, and they're very broad, and I guess you all recognize them. Students taking responsibility of their own learning process. What does that mean? How do we design curricula so that this happens? Progression and retention of knowledge and skills. The third one, future-ready engineering competencies. What do our students need to learn? Teaching and learning in the age of AI, and the transition from secondary to higher engineering education. And so the teams all wrote a plan, an innovation and research plan for their theme, after which they could start hiring 1 PhD student and 2 postdoc researchers to help them achieve the goals that they wrote down in these proposals with corresponding working packages. So here we see some of the people, some of the sessions that you did, and Vignesh, you can also see Christina there on the picture, the big one. Yeah. So actually we went on an unknown trip, I would say. So the teams are consisting of academic staff, around say 20 per team. Of course, they cannot all supervise the student, the PhD candidate. So they also have to discuss who is going to take the role of the supervisor. And since they are not educational scientists, how are they going to shape the supervision in such a way that they actually can provide a training for the PhD candidate to become an independent researcher in their field? Okay, this we already saw. And, oh, that was not what I wanted that I wanted to add to it. So we are now at the point that all 5 teams are now up to speed. Since there are 3 of them started a bit earlier, some of them are starting to get the results. So the researchers presented their results, for instance, on a SEFI conference, so the big engineering education conference. Some ideas about innovations and intervention that are being piloted at the moment, so as we speak. So there's also, this is also going on. And one of the challenges is that our PhD candidates have to be positioned at a specific department. And since all the supervisors come from different faculties, they are all scattered around the campus. So we also try to build a community for these candidates and postdocs in order for them to be able to interact, which of course we usually do when you are in a group. So this is a challenge because we do not have a department for educational science. On the other hand, other people say, but if you would have a department of educational science and they would be there, then it might be harder for them to reach out to the specific programs and to the teachers that are teaching in the program. So that might also be a challenge. Yeah, so I guess maybe I can stop sharing my screen because then I maybe might have a chance of seeing someone again. But now and show, but then it doesn't. Maybe when I do it like this. Oh, anyhow.
Yeah, is the presentation over?
You probably see my when I do this. I think I don't. Yes. Okay. I stop sharing the screen, or?
Yeah. I think you have to stop sharing.
But now I don't hear you. This is all amazing.
Can you hear now?
Yes,
so I can stop sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
the screen is still sharing.
Stop sharing, and if required, we can always go back.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sort of stopping now, maybe in the middle, but I think it might be interesting also maybe to have a discussion or some questions. So I wanted to end with saying that this is what we set up. We are in the middle of the development of this whole thing. And what I see is that there's a much more talking and awareness about how to shape conversations around quality of education in the sense of measuring or researching it. So, and we are going to investigate that as well. So we are already also starting an evaluation process of the program because we also want to know the impact of the whole thing. So I would like to end for the moment with this. Thank you for listening all. And I'm looking forward to questions or remarks.
Yeah, we'll open it for discussion and
So there is one question from Professor. He has a couple of questions. So let me read it out. So Professor Neelakantan is the Dean of Civil Engineering. So the 2 questions he has is, one is, do you have a mentor-mentee system in place for faculty members? And the second question is, how do you integrate AI into teaching, learning, and examination processes?
Okay, the first one, the answer is yes. So we have a university graduate school which also organizes the courses for our PhD candidates that they have to do a doctoral program while doing their research programs. And there is also attached a mentee, a mentor program, and also all the faculties where the students are or the candidates are located. They also have their own faculty graduate school where this mentorship program is and PhD councils are located. So that's one thing. And yes, what do we do with AI? Yeah, that's our university is working on an AI policy, but I think that the general policy that the policymakers are writing will be very well on a high level. So I think our standpoint is that we start from trust, so that we trust the students. So kind of embracing AI, but of course we are aware of the fact that students are using AI to learn. And the problem is that we do not really know what they are learning. So what we are assessing when they hand in certain things. So we are now at the faculty, for instance, really rewriting our assessment policy, also on the thesis, for instance, the end thesis. Maybe trying to focus more on an oral part and asking them on the process of how they actually did the research and get the results, and not only reading the report and asking some questions about that. So, but on the other hand, we also hear from our industrial advisory boards that our programs talk to, that they expect our students to have certain skills in using AI. So there's a difference between being an expert in the content of your field, so being able to assess also the outcomes of what AI gives you. But yeah, we also hear a lot of lecturers saying when we do formative assessment, the results are going like this, and then for the exam, the results are going down. So we also really have to rethink, and we're still in the process of that. So I don't really have an answer. So any suggestions are welcome. And we're doing some pilots. Some people and also some lecturers are doing pilots, but yeah, it's not so easy. Of course, if you have to construct things like making hardware and so on, there's still something that you really have to do and go into a lab. But for other topics, it's much harder.
Okay. Yeah. Professor Neelakandan has two more follow-up questions. Sir, I think you can also unmute and ask if you want, but for now I'll just go ahead. But anybody can unmute and ask questions directly as well. So I'll just go ahead with his questions for now. What teaching methods, such as flipped classrooms or project-based learning, have you promoted in recent years? This is question one. The second follow-up question is, do you follow relative grading, absolute grading, or criteria-based grading? Do you plan to change?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So the university has not really a policy, but at least a recommendation of using active learning formats for the courses. Not all of them, so it's not a university policy like our colleague university in Eindhoven has, for instance. They have said everything should be challenge-based. So go ahead and design your programs in such a way. We did not do that. So there's much more variation, but there's a focus on active learning. And for the mathematics courses, for instance, we used a blended format. So it's more or less flipped. So prepare before you come, be active while you're there, and also practice at home in a digital environment with immediate feedback. And also most of the programs do have projects, but it's not that top-down vision. So the vision is to deliver engineers with certain competencies for the future and to be able to help solving societal challenges. The way we do it, we try to find a common ground and also tailor it to the programs. But that is also one of the reasons why we need this idea to show which practices really achieve these results, and maybe go a bit away from only the feeling that the teacher has if something works or not, and to make it a bit more evidence based and informed, also for our specific context. Yeah. And there was another question that I was missing now.
Okay. On the net grading, absolute grading, or criteria-based grading.
Yes, that I know that we are doing some pilots with this. It's also, and we are. I mean, I don't have the power to say this, but if I would be in charge, I would say let's try to do away with exams and see what else we can do. Okay, I know it's very extreme, but okay, how can we reassess what the students is learning, right? Because we teach. We assume that students is learning certain things. We give them an exam, and then what happens if the student doesn't pass the exam with full grade, but somewhere in between? What does he know? What does he not know? And how can we build on that knowledge if we do not exactly know what they know? So I would be in favor of alternative grading or programmatic assessment much more. And specifically now in the age of AI, where it's more about making it worthwhile for the students, meaningful for the students to come and to learn from what they're doing. Yeah, but it's, I mean, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because I think as engineers and also as people working at the university, we're very much motivated, right? So we wanted to know, and we're very curious and wanted. So that's the difference between a teacher who wants to teach a subject and a student who wants to pass an exam or to get a diploma. Well, so we have some experiences with it, and people who are using it are quite enthusiastic about it. So we will also investigate. It's also one of the things that is investigated in the progression and retention team in ED, to see if the knowledge then stays longer.
Okay, that's great. There is another question by Professor Suri Babu. He is the Associate Dean for Academics in the Civil Engineering Department. Mm-hmm. He asked, how is quality of teaching measured in your university?
The quality of the PhD?
Teaching.
Teaching, yes. Okay, how is it measured? Well, we do have evaluations that are student evaluations. So yes, there's the usual pro and cons against these, but still they are used in a sense, not for the quality of the teaching, but maybe for a course. What can be then to start a conversation with the teacher that's involved. There are panels of students that are discussing with the program and the board of studies also the quality of the course, the way people are teaching. And then during the annual appraisal conversation, we try to have a conversation about what a lecturer needs to develop him or herself further in that direction. That's also not yet very much common, or it's a culture change that's going on at the moment. And of course, I mean, you always know who are the best lecturers because students are always praising them. You also know when there is a lot of things to be improved with some teachers, and you need to have this conversation all the time. But it's quite hard, and it's also a matter, of course, of balance between education and research and time that people can devote to actually develop themselves. But I think now we need more and more emphasis and possibilities for teachers or lecturers, colleagues, to develop in that sense. Because also, since we're talking about AI, the teaching is really changing. So it's less about the content, more about how to coach and to deal with people, which is, of course, also nothing that you necessarily learn when you're studying yourself.
Yeah. Thanks. There are a couple of questions more. One by Dr. Shankar Jha is from the School of Chemical and Biotechnology. He asks, how do you measure the impact of your interventions or innovations? But before that, I would like to have a prefix question. What do you mean by innovation in education?
I think anything should change in order to improve your teaching or the results of your teaching can be called an innovation. And of course, an important part of that could be technology that you use in the classroom, but not only. It could also be a different way. I mean, some people suddenly start doing debates or dialogue sessions in class. So I would also call that an innovation. Yeah.
Okay.
And so if you change something in the course to improve the results of the course, or at least not the results of the course maybe, but the learning of the students, then there are certain way to measure that. Either you can do pre and post test, or you can really do surveys or interviews. So you're really talking about quantitative and qualitative research. And first thinking about a theoretical framework in which the concept that you are wanting to investigate is set, so that you can know then what data to collect and how to analyze those. Yeah. So it's not so straightforward as pure engineering or data-driven science, but still.
Yeah. And I think that is where your model of having a PhD student from educational background being part of that in the IDE is very important, because the engineers themselves don't have that background.
Exactly. We need the multidisciplinary approach. And there's also a collaboration with a university nearby here, the Rotterdam Erasmus University, where there's a big cognitive psychology group, world famous also, and they are also working together. It would be interesting maybe to do it even more, so that they bring in their knowledge from the theoretical backgrounds and how to do this research, and that we also do not have to think about all these surveys ourselves, but see what validated material there already is. But indeed, and so to make the maybe that's something I would also wanted to say. There's also a national school for PhD candidates where they can do courses and workshops on educational science, and TU Delft is now a member of this school, so our students can go there to have more, and also to build up a network in the educational science domain.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, another question from Professor Sai Subramaniam from the School of Chemical and Biotechnology. How is PhD progress in teaching learning? The PhD students' progress in who are engaged in engineering education research evaluated? Is it based on publications, or how is it evaluated?
Yeah, it's like all our other PhDs thesis. So we do not say you are a thesis is 4 published papers and then it's finished. Could also be 3 or a framework, and so. But yes, there is some. It's not a written rule, but there's an understanding of having a few publications in peer-reviewed journals, and of course having gone to some scientific conferences and presented there, and of course having the engineering and education expert and a reviewer from educational science background in the supervision teams that would then hopefully assess the quality of the educational science outcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So 2 more questions, I think. So Professor Neelakandan again asks, do you assign any weight to student feedback when evaluating teaching quality?
Do you
assign any weight, or to what extent do we weigh the student feedback in assessing the teaching quality? Because there is always the case that student feedback, there are pros and cons, as you said. So to what extent do you assign weight?
Yeah, we do have the agreement that we do not use the student evaluation in the assessment, in the formal assessment of teachers. So we do ask program directors that are responsible for the programs where the teacher is teaching for input, for instance, when people go for promotion. But the most important thing is also the way that people write about or reflect on their teaching. So what they learned and what they changed in their path towards being a good teacher. And in all the promotion committees, teaching is a topic that is being discussed with the candidates. So if it is for a next step from, say, associate or assistant to associate level or to associate to full professor, there's quite a large part of the conversation about education and also the willingness to evolve in that side. And I think that has been increasing since 10 years that I'm here now. So I think it's good to see.
Yeah. Okay. And there's one more question from Professor Krishnamurthy. Is from the School of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, and he's the Associate Dean for Academics there.
Okay.
So he has a question. It is always a challenge to handle hypersensitive students, especially in the process of enforcing academic discipline. Any suggestions?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So that's also what we our university now at this moment is being aware of, also in my faculty of electrical engineering and mathematics and computer science, because we see that if we don't pay attention to make the environment inclusive also for these students, we lose them. They usually drop out. So this we try to do with mentoring programs in quite small groups, not only in the first year, but even in the second year of the bachelor study. So I don't know if it's about the PhD candidates that the question is, but at least for the bachelor, we do this very strongly. So and the groups are also put together in a way that the students feel comfortable. So there's a lot of attention paid to how the groups are formed and trying to be open to their needs. And also providing maybe different study environments, so quiet rooms, etc. This is maybe one thing. I don't know if it's answering the question, but it's yeah.
Professor Annoesjka, there are 3 more questions, but I know we are running out of time. So
I have a little bit more time.
You have time, okay. I will quickly read through the questions and then you can pick up whichever you want to answer, or you want to answer everything. That's up to you. So question 1 is from a colleague in Max. How do you integrate AI into Max, especially for teaching the classroom? So this is question 1. The second question is from Dr. Ashok, a colleague from the bioinformatics department. He has the use of AI in coding versus non-coding courses seems to require discipline-specific AI use guidelines. Have you been able to evolve such guidelines that you could share? And the third question is from Dr. S.G. Venkatesh, also a colleague from mathematics. He asked, is there a way to connect mathematics with music as you are a violinist?
That's a nice question. I think there are several ways. I mean, of course, there are acoustics and physics of sound. But I think you need certain discipline to become a professional musician, and you keep on practicing and listening to people. So this combination of having discipline and being open to feedback and reflection is, I think, one of the things that, and in mathematics it's a bit similar, because you are dealing with unknown things that you try to understand. So yeah, this maybe not so specific, but that's the way I do it at least. And yeah, about the use of AI in coding, that's also something that we are indeed. Some of our professors have done an example, so showing code that AI has provided and showing where the mistakes are. But of course, it's a matter of time, I presume, how well this is done. And the interesting thing is I talked to a student who started doing a bachelor in computer science 3 years ago. And he said, I started when AI was not there yet. So I learned the basics. I know the foundation. I understand what coding is. And I can also see what happens when AI does it. And he says, now my fellow students who start now, they don't have this knowledge because they start using AI from the start. So I think it's really important also to design activities where, yeah, the understanding of the concepts is really taught and discussed, and that knowledge is somehow created without looking at the code that has to be provided. On the other hand, of course, it's very useful if AI can do things that otherwise it would take a lot of time for you. So again, teaching them also to use it in a responsible way, also something, and an ethical way, also something else. Also think about how much energy is going into it. I mean, in terms of the climate. So it's a whole thing. And about the integration of AI in math, I know that there are. So I mean, on the positive side, I would say that if you would have a large language model which is trained on the material that you use, you could have a tutor as a student, an individual tutor that has a lot of patience and help you through your specific challenges as a student. I know that also some teachers use AI to actually prepare some teaching material or exercises or even exam questions. So that is also a possibility. I also know, I just heard a talk by one of my colleagues who's even using AI in his research in mathematics, which I find interesting. So he talks about mentioning ideas and then letting the calculations or even the proof or outsourcing that, so to speak. But then, of course, since he's an expert, he can also judge what comes out of it if it makes sense. But there I find it a bit hard, because I think when you think about a proof, you also get more insight about the problem behind the thing you're trying to prove. So it also gives you new information on how to proceed. I don't see how that works yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is one last question from
Okay.
Professor Sridharan. He's from the Department of Arts, Science and Education. He is the Associate Dean for Research in that school. So his question is, let me paraphrase the question. So his question is, how do you get adapted to the rapid changes in pedagogy? But I would rather put it like this: how willing are faculty members in getting adapted to the rapid changes? I mean, how willing are they to change? Because, you know, as teachers, there is a set thing that we get into, right? And it is very difficult for us to change.
Yeah.
So how do we overcome that resistance, or how is your experience at TUD?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I know that this culture is hard, and I mean but it's like people all over the world, I think, and in every profession, you have people with a more fixed mindset and people with a more growth mindset, which also holds for the students. So I think in this case, if you really want to achieve change, you need to find the people first that want to really to want to adapt. The early adapters, to show what you're doing and to take away their fears of lowering quality or not achieving the goals that they think they should achieve, and then so to share practices, but also to have some top-down policy, for instance, that we did with the mathematics innovation, haven't taken a decision that this is the direction we go, and then listening to all pros and cons and trying to adapt or address those whenever possible, but not changing the course too much once you've decided that this is the way to go. But yeah, and showing, and that's why a place like you have here also, a place where you share these results and people can see what happens and ask the questions and maybe work together, makes them take the next step. Yeah.
Okay, I think there are no more questions. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time and your insights.
Thank you very much for the invitation again, and for your time to listen to me. And I hope.
Yeah, I think we might have then a follow-up sessions once the results are ready in all your educational teams. I think
yes,
we would be happy to have a follow-up series of maybe TU Delft series itself as part of the TLC at SASTRA.
That would be great.
Because we'd like to know what were the questions those specific 5 teams that you took it. What were the results? And what was that evidence that they have collected?
Yes,
it is interesting to know that you want to roll back if the scientific evidence was not favoring the kind of the educational outcome. You want to you say that you want to stop doing something.
Yes,
you have been doing it.
Yeah, that's true, because we're also. That's why someone of the policy department of the university is part of the board, that they will actually also help us maybe translate certain things into more. Yeah, we'll see. I put the link to the website where you can find a bit more about ED, the topics,
right.
The people who are in there. Then at least you can have a look.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. So thank you to all the participants for joining us. Of course, thanks to the speaker for spending a great time, and I think you have taken all the questions and helped us to deliberate on this topic. Thanks to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.